Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to my review of tonight's edition of Smackdown. And tonight's Smackdown was held from the same arena that Raw was at last night, and that was the Bell Center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And this was the go-home show for Backlash, which is happening this Sunday. And I gotta say, tonight's Smackdown, I thought it was an okay show. Wasn't a good go-home show, same as Raw last night, where Raw wasn't, a good go-home show, and it was a very lackluster show. But SmackDown I thought was a little bit better than last night's Raw. But SmackDown I thought it was okay. And the show opened up with Paige saying that, Shane McMahon won't be here tonight because of what transpired at the Greatest Royal Rumble. And she says she makes, a change in the AJ Styles and Nakamura match at Backlash for the WWE Championship. And she announces that AJ Styles and Nakamura's, Shinsuke Nakamura's match at Backlash will be a no disqualification match, which is pretty awesome. It's still for the WWE Championship. But that's going to be a decent, fun match. Hope it is. But SmackDown opened with that, and then it was Miz TV. The Miz was out saying that Daniel Bryan has been banned from Miz TV, which Daniel Bryan wasn't here on SmackDown tonight. And the crowd, forgot to mention the crowd for SmackDown tonight, same crowd, same loud crowd as it was at Raw last night. The Montreal crowd, very good crowd tonight. And he calls out, Miz ends up calling out Seth Rollins and says, that Seth Rollins has something of his, and it's going to be him and Seth fighting on Sunday for the Intercontinental Championship, which eventually Seth Rollins is going to win and retain. Very predictable. We all know it. And Miz says, after Sunday, they're going to, people are going to see A-lister as champion. And let me tell you, Miz, it's not going to happen. Seth Rollins is going to retain. And he introduces his guest, who is Jeff Hardy. And Miz says to Jeff Hardy, does he think, in Jeff Hardy's honest opinion, does he think that, Miz is, a better Intercontinental Champion than Seth Rollins? Jeff Hardy says, if Miz was better than Seth Rollins, then he should have won. Then Miz should have won at the Greatest Royal Rumble in the ladder match. So Miz introduces another guest from Miz TV, and that was Randy Orton. And Orton says to Miz that he and Jeff are cool. And Miz says Orton doesn't play with others. He ends up bringing up to Orton the SmackDown top 10 list, where Orton was number 9 on that list. And Orton says he doesn't care about that list or being number 9 on that list. And Orton says to Miz that he doesn't tell when to strike, and it's up to him when he's going to strike and take out and RKO his opponents. And so Orton says to Jeff Hardy, they may be cool, but Sunday at Backlash, he's going to take the United States Championship back. And so Jeff Hardy ends up telling Orton to try. And so Shelton Benjamin comes out, he says to Randy Orton that he doesn't deserve anything, and that Benjamin ended up beating Orton last week. And Benjamin says he should deserve a championship opportunity. And so we see Randy Orton go after Benjamin. And then Jeff Hardy hits a whisper in the wind to The Miz. And that ended the Miz TV segment. But it was a decent Miz TV segment. Then when SmackDown came back from commercial, we had the first match. It was a tag team match. It was Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy versus Shelton Benjamin and The Miz. And the match was okay. It was back and forth between them. The crowd was cheering loudly during this match. Jeff Hardy was entertaining. The end of the match, you had Randy Orton hitting the RKO on Shelton Benjamin, and Jeff Hardy ended up hitting the Swanton Bomb to Shelton Benjamin to score the win for him and Randy Orton. Then after the match, Randy Orton then ended up hitting Jeff Hardy with the RKO. So it sets up a little hype for their match on Sunday. So, but overall, the match was okay. Then we had Renee Young interviewing the Iconics, Peyton, Royce, and Billie Kay. Carmella was supposed to be with them, but Carmella wasn't there. And Peyton and Billie attempt to do Canadian accents, which was terrible. And they brag about how they beat Asuka last week, and say Billie Kay brags that how they beat Asuka last week, and they say that both of them are better than Asuka. They tell Renee to to go, and they got this interview, and so they end up interviewing Carmella. So we see Carmella then now comes, and Carmella ends up saying she's going to beat Charlotte at Backlash on Sunday and walk out still SmackDown Women's Champion. And she says she's going to go out there tonight and show why Mella is money by taking on Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Asuka. And so Carmella is teaming with the Iconics, Peyton, Royce, and Billie Kay tonight to take on them. So basically it was just that little backstage interview. Then we had the Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus. They were backstage. We saw New Day was also there. New Day ends up saying to Cesaro and Sheamus, what happened to them on winning the Raw Tag Team Championships at the Greatest Royal Rumble. And Cesaro says, he and Sheamus like being on SmackDown so they can beat all three of them like pancakes. And, New Day bring a guy out there, out who has, the pancakes on, a plate. And, they want to give, Sheamus and Cesaro, pancakes. And both of them are like, oh, these might be poisoned, or, we might get food poisoning, or, that's what they said. And then we see them, I think it was Sheamus who flipped the pancakes, and, the pancakes, went over the floor. And Sheamus says, he wants to match with Xavier tonight. So basically, it was just that backstage segment with them. Then we saw Aiden English and Rusev backstage. Lana is there. She ends up talking to, her husband, Rusev, saying that, she's concerned about Rusev Day, and that, he came up, and that Rusev came up short at the Greatest Royal Rumble fighting Undertaker in the casket match. And she says, you know, something is. She ends up telling Rusev that something is holding, you know, you back. So, and pretty much that was it. But you know, hope they don't, you know, break up, you know, the Rusev Day thing with, you know, Rusev and Aiden English. But then after that, we saw Big Cass end up coming out, saying he's from New York City, and that, you know, the people from New York City, you know, from here are better than, you know, everybody elsewhere. He ends up, you know, saying that he's better than Daniel Bryan. He also ends up saying, you know, when he faces, you know, Daniel Bryan, the crowd is going to get a 5-second match. He ends up calling out Daniel Bryan so he could kick, you know, his teeth down his throat. And of course, you know, Daniel Bryan wasn't here tonight, so Daniel Bryan's music hits, and it's this guy, this guy who's, you know, a midget guy dressed as Daniel Bryan. And Big Cass goes and makes fun of you know, the guy dressed as Daniel Bryan, the short guy dressed as Daniel Bryan. The guy ends up kicking Big Cass, but fails miserably, and it was pretty corny. It was cringe. But we find out that, you know, Big Cass, you know, hired this guy to play, you know, Daniel Bryan, and Big Cass then hits a big boot to a little guy's, you know, face. So pretty much that was basically the end of the segment. But you know, really liking Big Cass. You know, if they keep this up with Big Cass, he could be, you know, a really good heel. The crowd was booing Big Cass, and you know, it was a big, you know, it was a big loud, you know, crowd of boos for Big Cass, and you know, that's good. You know, Big Cass, you know, was giving the crowd, you know, decently good heel heat. So then we had Renee Young interviewing AJ Styles about how the match at Backlash between him and Nakamura is now a no disqualification match, and, you know, will it help him retain the WWE title against Nakamura? Styles ends up saying, you know, let Nakamura play his games, and that he's out to defend the title, where, you know, Nakamura is more interested in the jewels, you know, with hitting low blows after low blows after low blows. And Styles says Nakamura ruined WrestleMania for him, and that Nakamura also took away AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Universe, and how he basically destroyed that match. And AJ Styles calls Nakamura a coward, and once he finishes Nakamura, Nakamura is going to have a look of torture on his face. And so out comes Samoa Joe and says, you know, he ends up telling Styles, you know, that, you know, Styles lost focus of the danger around him, and that, you know, the match he should be, you know, focused on is having his hand raised. And, you know, he's proven, you know, Samoa Joe goes to say, you know, more what, you know, the match should be focused on is having, you know, Joe's hand, you know, raised, and proven Roman Reigns is a failure. And he says to Styles that after he's done putting Roman to sleep, whether it's AJ Styles or Shinsuke Nakamura, you know, Joe is coming after the WWE title. So either it could be Styles or Nakamura that, you know, Joe was going to face next. So pretty much you know, it's going to be probably AJ Styles. We all know it. Then we see Nakamura's music hits. We think that he's coming, he's coming out, but he ends up in the ring. He ends up low blowing Styles once again. Really bad low blow. Then Nakamura ends up hitting the Kinshasa on Styles. So pretty much that basically ended the segment. But it was a pretty decent segment. Then we saw Becky Lynch was in the locker room with Asuka and Charlotte. Becky says that she's pissed that they lost last week to the Iconics. And Asuka says, forget about last week and look forward to tonight. Charlotte ends up coming and she says, she's going to show Carmella, the respect, and that, she's going to take, the SmackDown Women's title from her on Sunday. So it was basically that. Then we had Xavier Woods versus Sheamus. This match was okay. Wasn't great by any means though, but it was back and forth between Xavier and Sheamus. Xavier Woods ended up winning the match with a roll-up on Sheamus to score the win because Cesaro got involved and basically distracted, and then we had Kofi Kingston and Big E ended up taking out Cesaro. Then gave Xavier Woods control of the match and led to Xavier rolling up Sheamus. So, but match itself, it was okay. Then we had Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose come in and visit Paige. Have a little Absolution reunion. They both congratulate Paige on being the new general manager of SmackDown. And basically Paige called them in, thinking that one of them was going to get a shot at the SmackDown Women's title. And she says to Mandy that next week she was going to be facing Becky Lynch. And pretty much Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville don't really agree with that. And she's like, oh, we were a team, you were our friend. And then Paige ends up saying to them that Absolution is dead. So it's going to be Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose without Paige. So it was basically that. So Mandy Rose is going to be taking on Becky Lynch next week. Then we had a promo with Andrade Cien Almas. Zelina Vega was, pretty much, did the whole promo saying, oh, when is everybody saying, oh, when is Andrade Cien Almas debuting? And it's on, on her watch when Andrade Cien Almas debuts on SmackDown. And so she says SmackDown Live will change when Andrade comes. But hopefully it's not that long. So it's just a little hype for Andrade and Zelina's main roster debut. Then we had the main event. It was a six-woman tag. Oh man, last night we had a 6-man tag, and now tonight a 6-woman tag team match. Ah man, it's just Xerox with these 6-man tags and these 6-woman tags. It was Asuka, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte versus the Iconics and Carmella, and it was a pretty entertaining main event, in my opinion. It was back and forth between them. Becky Lynch and Charlotte were pretty decent in the match. Also, Asuka. It was very enjoyable with the three of them, tag teaming. Yeah, you had times, Carmella didn't want to have anything to do with Charlotte. So that eventually happened later on, where Charlotte got her hands on Carmella and was doing the Flair chops. And so Asuka, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte won the match because Asuka ended up locking in the Asuka lock on Peyton Royce. Peyton Royce ended up tapping out. So yeah, Asuka, Becky, and Charlotte win the match. So, and that pretty much ended SmackDown for tonight. So, yeah, so anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's edition of SmackDown. Thank you all for watching, and be sure to give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and until the next video, I'll see you all later.